guys, and welcome to my August TBR. These aren't all the books I read in August because I always read them from the library, but this is it. So let's get started. This time I'm going to jump a little bit around. Usually if you watched any of my ones in the past, I don't really ever discuss it or anything, but I do them in order of when I read them. So because I write them down, I take notes while I'm like reading them and write things down about the characters and stuff that I want to remember to tell you guys. And so yeah, they're always typically in order unless I've like read a series and I'll group them together during the wrap-ups. That's what I'm kind of going to do because I read a bunch of Rachel Gibson books again. I feel like I've read a ton of her series this year because they're so easy to read. Anyways, as if you saw my wrap-up last month in July, I did, and I'll link it down below, I did read like a very long series and I just got bogged down in it, and I finished the very last one the first day in August. So it is the first book I read, and it is The Art of Running in Hills by Rachel Gibson, and this is the last in the Chinook series. So this one is about, oh gosh, maybe like 20 years from the original book later, because this girl is a little girl in the first book in the series, and now she's at the age to get married. So she's in her mid-20s. So she's much older in this book. This book is about Lexi Kowalski. I don't know how to say the name. Her father was in the first book, John, and then her mother, of course, is in the first book. And this is like a replica of the first book where it's about a bride who's running away and she doesn't want to get married in the situation she is. Lexi in this book found herself in this situation because she went on a show, and she is very competitive, like her father, I'm guessing, and she basically ends up winning the show, but the show is to get married, and the only reason she's in it is like to promote. She has like a dog site where she makes dog clothes, and that's what she's really passionate about in life. Whatever. I don't really understand that passion, but whatever. So she just wants to get her name out there and wants people to find her site and buy her stuff. But she ends up winning. She realizes quickly, I don't want to marry this guy, runs away from the TV producers and everything, hops on a plane, and then there's a hockey player on the plane. And the guy's name is Sean. He's really moody. He's a really good hockey player. He's like new to the team, so her dad doesn't particularly like him. As far as this story goes, I like to read her books because she's really good at setting up town. She's really good at setting up other quirky players. And this one is one of those ones just like, we've liked all the players in the past, and so this is something about one of their daughters. But for me, I didn't connect with these people. They were really quite boring. There wasn't too much to Sean. There wasn't really too much to Lexi. It was quirky. It was easy to read. It was fun to read about his daughter. Is I think the first book I really did like. It was Simply Irresistible is the first book, and it has a bridesmaid dress on it too. So I like that in this book you do get to know the families. A lot of times she does not do family dynamics. So in this book, then one thing I did like is that the girl got to know his family, and he definitely knows her family. So there was a bit of family dynamics, which I enjoyed that part of the book, but the two main characters were just kind of boring. And the romance wasn't built really that much between them just because they're into each other's looks. To me, that doesn't equate romance always. So yeah, I thought the romance was a little bit lacking in this one. The next one I read by her was True Confessions. The reason I picked up this one is because in that Chinook series, there was one called like Not a Bad Valentine's Day or something like that. And it was the second book in her Truly Idaho series. This is the first, and she only has two, I guess, in that series. So this book is a completely different story about Hope and Dylan. Hope is a girl who is a writer, and she has a guy who's kind of stalking her, so she takes some time off and gets some inspiration for writing, and she's like a hokey writer. She's a tabloid writer. She writes nonfiction pieces about aliens and everything, and she finds it really fun and fascinating. Dylan, on the other hand, is a cop. He used to be married to a young woman who has now become an actress, a Hollywood actress, and they share a son. And he raises the son, and the actress kind of has nothing to do with it. So he keeps this secret from the whole town, and to protect his son, because he doesn't want people looking into his son's life and asking him about his mother and everything like that. So I understand that, but her secrets, I don't understand. She kind of lies to the whole town about what she does and why she's there writing and stuff. She says she's writing a nature piece. I don't really believe the reason she needs to hide it or lie. So the whole storyline is based on that. So I didn't believe the storyline in this one. Dylan's fine as a character. She's fine as a character. I found them both to be more unique characters. I loved how quirky this town was. I loved the town setup. But yeah, there was also a need to like hide the relationship because he's the town sheriff and he doesn't want everybody gossiping about them. But I didn't believe that one as well in this book. This book was not one of my favorites by her just because it's kind of middle of the road. I'm not too excited about that one. The next one was Not Another Bad Date. This one is such a cute cover by Rachel Gibson. She finally wrote about an NFL player. This one is, I don't think this one's in a series. Oh no, this is a writer friend series. So this girl, she moves to Texas. So Adele and Zachary. So this one's about Adele and Zachary. Adele moves to Texas because her sister, she's a writer, and her sister is going through a bad divorce, plus she's pregnant. So Adele moves there to help her with her divorce and pregnancy. Zachary has moved back to Texas because that's where his family is based. He was a pro football player. He is not anymore. He coaches the high school team. And he takes football very seriously. So that's kind of fun because she writes a lot about hockey players, a lot about writers, a lot about military men, and a lot of her books are based in Texas, and this is the first one about football. So that was kind of fun by her. Rachel Gibson does a really good job of doing, I was once in love with this person and I'm going to fall in love with him again. Most of her books that were like that, I have loved all of them. And this is the first book where I didn't really buy it. It was more like the adult relationship they had. It was just more like, oh, there's just something about her. But yeah, but what is it about her? Like, I don't get it. Like, you can't just say there's something about her and write that off. Like, that I think about her all the time. I feel like you have to describe as an author or something, or give something to the relationship as an author. I just don't know. But the whole storyline too, she's like angry at him for the past because he broke up with her when she was like falling in love with him, and he broke up with her because his ex-girlfriend turned out to be pregnant. So to me, that's a very responsible thing to do. He stays married to the woman until she ends up passing away, his ex-wife. But at the same time, they end up having a bad relationship, a separate relationship. They both don't care about the marriage and they live separate married lives, but they stay together for their daughter. I don't know. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I would rather for the guy's character had been to divorce her and been part of his daughter's life than to have this fake life for like a couple decades. I don't know. I didn't particularly like that part. I don't know. So that's what I didn't get along with this book. It's just, I don't think she wrote it as well. As far as me believing they were once in love, yeah, but nowadays, what was the need for it? I don't really get it, or I don't get why they connected. I thought it would be like they become friends again or something, but no, it was more like an Insta thing again, and I didn't buy it this time. But she usually does really well, and the other ones that she's done like that I really liked. I did like that she brought football into it finally, and so there were some fun aspects in it. Next book I read was The Dazzling Heights by Catherine McGee, and this is the only one I have out of the series. The Thousands Floor was the first in the series, and I'm reading The Towering Sky, I believe, right now, starting the series. So this one is about the Dazzling Heights. As you can see, there's two towers. The first one is like based on this idea that in New York City, they built a huge tower and there's none of New York left, basically, what you think in the first book. And it is a very Gossip Girl meets Pretty Little Liars. There's tons and tons of drama in the first book. There's tons of intrigue. The characters make bad decision after another. Someone ends up dead, okay? And that's how the first book starts. Somebody is dead. The second book does the same exact plot line. So I was like, this better be really intriguing. But at the end of the book, the cop-out, not to give a huge spoiler away, the person who dies, you don't really care about them, and they're like only given a few chapters in the book, and they could have been a lot more interesting. So this one, I feel like the drama wasn't quite as there. They still follow the same drama lines in this book. So Lydia, you follow the girl who actually pushed the first girl off the tower in the first book. You follow her. You follow this guy who is he has an illegal computer in his brain, so you follow him, which he's trying to keep that secret down from everybody. You follow a girl who's in love with her brother, and in this book, it's the same thing. It's just, I mean, it's a progression of her and her brother's relationship, but it's like the same, oh my gosh, we can't be together because we're brother and sister. And he's her adopted brother, but, and you know that in the very beginning of the first book. But it felt like the continuation of the same stories. Like there's a new death in this one. They all have these little secrets they're carrying on. I wish, honestly, there was a little bit more drama. Like these teenagers made a little bit more mistakes or did something bad, but this one was trying to like conclude things and make things nicer, I feel like. I don't really know. I didn't think the drama at the end was as big of a deal in this one, just because you didn't really have that passion for the character because you never heard for the character. Like I said, I think she's given 2 chapters because there are like 4 or 5 POVs in this book. And then there is a new girl in this book, and she's probably the most exciting thing. Her name is Calliope. I don't know how to say her name. She is a con artist. She has a really torn background of appreciating what her and her mother does, yet her and her mother have a strange relationship, yet she's deciding whether this is who she wants to be because she's basically an adult now. And then there's another girl who had an interesting story in the first one, Rylan. In this book, she's like given a scholarship to go to the school with the rich people, and she gets into a thing with a movie theater, which I feel like that just subtracts from the story. Like, it's not really believable that she would be working for this famous director or anything, being a high school kid. I didn't like that storyline. I thought it made her a less memorable character. I kind of got bored by her. I don't know. I just wish there was a little bit more drama in this book. Overall, I did read through it. I am reading the second one. I still enjoy them. They are very Gossip Girly, Pretty Little Liar-esque. But yeah, the first book was way more dramatic. This is following the same drama lines, but it's the same storyline. So if you like that, you'll like the second one. Yeah. So I hope I described that all well. I was trying not to give away too many spoilers. This one you find out there are some cities who have 2 towers. But yeah, that's pretty exciting. So you do find a little bit more about the towers. The next one I read, I don't have the book, and it was The Rest of the Story by Sarah Dessen. This follows a girl named Emma, who also has her middle name is Sailor, so half the book she's going by Emma, the other half she's going by Sailor, because her mom used to call her Sailor, and her mom's friends. Emma finds herself at a lake, and it's called North Lake, for the summer, or part of the summer, because her dad got remarried. She loves the person her dad got married to. Her mother has, what she knows of her mother, had a substance abuse past and died, and she doesn't know much about her mother. It's like she's blocked her memories of her mom or her mom's families, and so this summer is about unrevealing those. Sarah Dessen, I will say this, as a YA author, is very good at family dynamics. A lot of YA authors, I feel like, over simplify family dynamics, and she's really good at that. I think I would personally really have enjoyed this story at a younger age. The beginning of the story, it also does a little bit of romance. There's a guy named Rue who remembers her from when he was younger, and the romance is kind of there a little bit all the way through the book. It talks about her basically working for this family, finding out she works with her grandmother because her grandmother owns this hotel. There is a bit of class warfare, just slightly addressed in this book. There is one side of the lake that her father came from, where the wealthier people come from, and then there's the people that live there and are not as wealthy on the other side of the lake. So there's a bit of class warfare, but it's not divulged at all, which that happens a lot. I mean, it's a bit of a letdown a lot of times in YA, but it happens a lot, where YA will bring up bigger social issues, but then they kind of drop the ball running a lot. This book is way more centered around family dynamics than it is about romance or the class warfare thing. They're just little additives, I feel like, in the book. So I thought it was good overall. I think I would have liked it when I was younger a little bit better. This is my first Sarah Dessen book, and I hear this is very typical storyline of hers, so I'm not sure. I don't know. Hopefully I like it. I think I have quite a few other ones of hers right here. So hopefully I like some more of hers. It was a fine read. It was middle of the road for me. Nothing wrong with it. It was a summer read. Yeah. pretty good. Was Say You Still Love Me by K.A. Tucker. I read Simply Wild by her, so I got like a gift card to Barnes & Noble for my birthday. So when this came out at the beginning of August, I think it came out August 6th. So this is a new release in August. I went and picked it up because I loved the Simply Wild. I did like this book as well a lot, and comparatively to other books in the contemporary chick lit genre, it's actually a lot better than most of them, but I did not like this as much as the Simply Wild. This tells a story of a romance past again. So two people who were in love when they were younger, and then they've grown up and they re-meet and rekindle. So this tells a story of a girl. The girl is a VP of like a huge financial institution or something. Her dad runs it. She's preparing to take over one day. She has worked a lot in life to understand what she's doing at her job, being good at her job. So she has worked a lot. So I can appreciate that. She's a girl that has been given a lot of privileges based on where she is. The boy, on the other hand, Kyle, so Piper is the girl and then Kyle is the boy. He is a lot more interesting, more complex character. He has a lot more hardships in life based on his character, based on his life. He's a little more interesting. So in the beginning of the book, you read them at their modern day, like where they are now, and it does flashbacks in the book. So in the beginning of the book, I was like, I don't really want to read about all these flashbacks about their previous love story because it was kind of slow to start with. But then as the story went on, I liked them both about the same, but then by the end, the original love story was so much better than the modern day one. I felt like the modern day one was a bit lacking. I felt like all the romance was back in the past and it wasn't brought up to the present day. He is a security guard. He's working in this building. He's ignoring her, being a bit of a jerk. You don't know why or what reasons or what happened to them completely in the past or what happened at the lake that broke them up and why they didn't stay together. And you have to read basically the entire book to get to that point of the story. I didn't like it as much. I felt like I wasn't in love with the two of them being together, like in the end. Like, I loved the original love story way more than I loved the modern one. This book does divulge a huge portion of it is focused on her work and what she does in his work, which is a little bit sad because I feel like not that his work's any less important or anything. I just feel like his story is kind of a bit lacking in the present story, which I found him to be a way more interesting character in the past. So yeah, I liked it compared to like a lot of other books. I really liked it. I still gave it a really good score. I just didn't love it as much as Simply Wild. But I still really liked it. I would definitely recommend it to people. I don't own, and it is Famous in a Small Town by Emma Mills. I checked this one out over and over again. I picked out First and Then, and it was such a cute little art story about like first crush and then you move on to your second crush. So this was Famous in a Small Town. It was a much slower read for me, and it is about a girl who lives in a small town. Her whole life is marching band, and it's really hard to create money and get money to do the things because it is a small town and it's hard to curate the money. So her idea is to bring the one person who has become famous from this town back to town to sing and make some money, because usually there's like a charity thing that they do every year, and they usually just sing her songs, and it's like a competition every year, and that helps raise money. And so the girl's name is Sophie. The boy, the romantic interest in this name is August. He is a more complex character again. You don't know much about him, and it takes forever to reveal through the whole story of why he's kind of passive aggressive and a bit of a jerk through the story. And he is the romance interest lead. To me, I didn't rate this one well. I didn't care for the characters in the end. They were kind of both boring. I thought they could be more intriguing, or just something about them, something unique about them. They were both kind of basic, more border characters, where I think First and Then I felt like, although they were basic, there was something a little about them. I always have to have something little. And the only other problem with the book, it's okay to have like just generic characters and stuff, but the 2/3 of the book was like setting the scene, I felt like. And then the last third of the book was like drama. So I had to read 2/3 of the book in order to get through the good things, the entertaining parts, the reason you're reading the story. So yeah, I think that kind of heavily ended in the beginning, and it gave me like a bad turn in my head, like, okay, it's okay. Okay, the next book I read, I was sick. So I finished a bunch of books that I was like halfway through and I was sick, or old books. And yeah, these were the last books I read in August. So the first one was Cinderella Rules, and up here I have a few more of this series because I just picked up the series when I saw them all, and it was really cool. But anyways, Donna Kaufman. First off, these have some steamy scenes in it. It is not like an overall steamy raid, but I was not prepared for that. With the name Cinderella Rules and the offer of the big bad wolf, I don't know. I just wasn't prepared for some steamier reads. But that wasn't the main point of the book, which I did enjoy. There's a girl named Darby London, and there is a boy who you hear from maybe 1/3 of the time, and his name is Shane Morgan. So most of the book is based solely around her. She is a girl from Montana. She inherited a ranch. She loves her life. She doesn't get dressed. She doesn't get ready. And she is brought back to Washington, D.C. because her father is in politics, and her sister seems to be not wanting to do the job at the time and is in love and doesn't want to like host somebody. So to be nice to her sister, she goes back and hosts somebody while her father's out of town, and it is a Swedish man her father's doing some kind of financial deal with. And the Swedish man is, of course, gorgeous. And then there's another boy who comes into play, hence the Cinderella Rules. Her sister sends her to the Cinderella Academy for a couple of days before the guy shows up, basically to get her polished, to get her hair done, her hair waxed. Remind her how she used to eat in this highfalutin society, which she knows most of it because she grew up in it. I think she left when she was a teen to live with her grandpa at this ranch because it just wasn't the life for her after her mother died. And she was just kind of running away at the time. So there's a bit of complicated more issues in this story, and it's really funny. I thought it was really funny. I thought it was really quirky. I love the way the writer writes. But overall, as far as like me like reading through it, I didn't read like candy. I had to pull myself through it at times. There were really funny parts, and I liked the storyline. I liked the people and everything, but it didn't just read and grip me straight all the way through. The Swedish guy, Steven, was kind of boring. The guy she was supposed to be hosting the whole time. On the back cover, it's like, does she like this guy or this guy? But you know from the right beginning, because there's a separate POV from Shane, that she's not going to end up with a Swedish guy. And I think I don't even know if you needed the different POV from Shane really in the end, because it just kind of gives it away who she's going to end up with, because the author never puts the Swedish guy in. So you kind of know right away, I don't even know if you need that POV. And then at the very end, the book gets really drastic all of a sudden, and it is like, I don't know if it needed that big of a change or flip. You needed something because it's the ending and you need a big fling, but there's a big flip at the end. I don't know if the book needed it, and it was okay. It was okay. But I enjoyed it. I'll definitely read the other books by her. I did like her storytelling abilities. I liked a lot of things about it, but there were just certain aspects of the story that was just kind of not as fun. But I think I will enjoy the other ones by her. The next one I read was, let's just say this is Beautiful Beep, because I'm not going to say it out loud. But this is by Christina and Lauren. This was the first book they read, and I read 2 books I really liked by them this summer, and I've read one in the past I didn't particularly like, so I decided to go back to the beginning. I like to do that with authors, to go back to the beginning and read their first book. Oh, okay. So this book is very, very, very steamy. It's in a different category. They're like in a chick lit category writing now. I did just haul a book where it is a thriller-based book, so I think they've written a thriller together, because Christina and Lauren are 2 different authors who write together, but this is in the steamy reads category, the very steamy reads category, where there isn't much romance to the books. It's just about the steam. And to me, this book is a lot like the storyline of, what is that one? Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating. So they wrote a chick lit called Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating. I read it earlier this year and I did not like it. I just didn't like the characters. I didn't get along with it. And now I'm thinking I just don't like that storyline. So Josh and Hazel is about like two characters who are working in a business group. They work across from each other. They're really mean to each other. And then they find out they have some pent up lust towards each other, right? And so to me, I don't believe the romance. That's what happens in this book. And although this one's a power play, it's the boss and the secretary who have hated each other for like years and years and years. The girl is getting her master's. The guy that's her boss, he has his whole family's in this. So his father is in this and everything. But they're in separate places. And he has worked his whole life really hard to learn things outside of the family business, is brought into the family business. And then she ends up being his secretary. And he's really mean to her for a few years, right? And all of a sudden the lust flips, you know, when they have some alone time together during a business meeting. But it's just not believable to me. It's not I understand you cannot get along with somebody and then get along with somebody. I don't know. There's a way more lack of romance in this than there was in Josh and Hazel's. There was way more romance in that, and I didn't think that was enough. So I just didn't like this story. I didn't buy it. I like it far less than I like Josh and Hazel's. I would recommend that one much more over this book. I think if you're a fan of that book, you'd probably maybe like this one if you like steamier reads. But for me, this just, yeah. So this is a series, and I think there are different characters in the series. So yeah, tell me if you read other parts of the series, if you liked it. I'm not sure if I'll go on with it. They do have another series in this category I may or may not read. I don't really know. But for me, I think now I know. I just don't like this storyline because it is the same storyline. But yeah, much of the romance is cut out in this book. So, nope. I mean, I do love them. I'm so excited for their release this year. I just picked up another book by them. There's some books I really love. I do love their writing story. It's just those storylines. I don't buy it. I don't like it. I have to have more romance in a romance book. Just me. It's just me. I have a fantasy and a nonfiction left. So I'm just going to do the fantasy. And then I'll do my nonfiction because it's kind of like separate, you know. So I read Splintered by A.J. Howard, and this took me forever to read. But I really, really enjoyed it. I could read this as a standalone. I didn't know it was a book series when I finished it. It wasn't until I was like looking into it and adding it to my Goodreads that I realized it was not a standalone. So I really enjoyed it as a fantasy standalone, and it's not. So I'll probably go on with the series. It did take me forever to read. It is an Alice in Wonderland retelling. It is about a girl named Alyssa. She is Alice's great-great-great-granddaughter. Alice has put a curse on their family where all the women in their family go crazy, okay? And you don't really know why. You don't know what Alice did in Wonderland to put this curse on her family. And then there is like this dreamy boy who is her best friend who she skates with. He's dating somebody else who ends up falling down the rabbit hole with her. And his name is Jeb. And then there's another guy named Morpheus, and he used to play with her like as a child. She has started hearing, I think when she was like a preteen, she started hearing voices, so she can talk to plants, she can talk to animals. She doesn't really know why. She knows the Alice past is probably why, but she keeps it a secret because her mom is in a mental institution and has gone completely crazy. And you find out more about that story. But most of the story is based in Alice in Wonderland. This is a different kind of Alice in Wonderland. It reminds me of like something more dark, or like if Tim Burton had gotten a hold of Alice in Wonderland, which he did, I think. Did he do this? I don't know. It was just kind of like a weirder, stranger, darker Alice in Wonderland, but at the same time, it was still light and happy. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. It was really fun. I loved the retelling overall. There's so many characters. There was so much going on. But yeah, the whole demise behind the book is for her to break this curse. But I really liked it. I don't want to give anything away. I will probably go on to read the other ones. I really enjoyed it. It did take me a longer read. A lot of times fantasies, for whatever reason, I cannot fly through them. Even though this is a shorter fantasy, it's not particularly like big reading. And I don't know if it's my copy, but some chapters are like blue and some are gray, some are black. I don't know if that was meant to be that way. I liked it. The little romance was adorable in it. But yeah, I thought it was really, really fun. So if you like retellings, I do read a lot of retellings, but I would recommend this one. I loved that. That was a fun Alice in Wonderland retelling. And then the very last book is I Am Malala by Malala Yousafzai. I can't say her last name at all. I thought I had not read this book all the way through. I thought I had read portions of it. This is the Young Readers edition. And I was like, ooh, that one's shorter. I can just read it straight through and have a good overall. But no, I've read it. Either there's more in the adult edition or the regular edition, or I remember every single stinking piece I read in this book, and I was like, no, I've already read this. But I'm not mad I did a reread of this nonfiction piece. It was so easy to read. It's so quick. Her story is beautiful and wonderful and sad. But it's just about a girl who stood up for education. She lives in Pakistan. She stood up in education when she was really young, starting. So yeah, it's her nonfiction piece about her life. When she was 10 or 12, she started standing up for girls' education because it got stricter and stricter by the Taliban. So she was speaking out against them. They ended up shooting her when she was a teen in the face. She has to go through rehab. She gets moved to England and Birmingham because she's a target at that point by the Taliban. So she still fights for women's education to this day. She goes around speaking to everybody, including world leaders, about it. I think she wrote this book in high school, and then I think she also won the Nobel Peace Prize when she was in high school, and I think now she's in college. She might be out of college now, but I think she might still be in college. She's a very impressive girl, a great story of, it doesn't matter how old or young you are or the education or knowledge you have, you can always make a difference in the world just by speaking up, and she's like very driven. I think her main message is that education changes everything. It teaches equality, like everybody gets like the same desks and you get the same papers and you have the same chance to get good grades, and it teaches justice because, how much work you put into it, the grades you receive back, and it teaches women so much about reading and writing and math so they can handle themselves in their own world and also get more into politics in her world, which is heavily needed. And just they can be whatever they want to be then. So for hers, it's like in our world, like in America, it's very important for women to lead, to be independent. But in her world, it's just like to an extreme point that women need to go to college or go to school, not just primary school, but also secondary school and even college and everything, because they're not educated, they get severely oppressed, and because of the people around them. And yeah, it's just really sad story, but she's a huge proponent and fighter for change for that. I think she owns her own school now, or she funds her own school now, and yeah, she's really cool. And I've definitely read this one. I'm not mad I reread it. It was a good reread. If there's a good reread nonfiction, this was it. And this was so easy, the Young Readers Edition book. It even does, like, at the end, give, like, for young readers, it gives, like, the history of the Taliban and Pakistan and all that stuff. So, yeah, really fun. I really liked it. Glad I reread it. And those are all the books I read in August. I finally got to a nonfiction. I usually put one nonfiction on my TBR every single month, and I rarely get to one, which is sad because sometimes nonfictions are the most life-changing. So hopefully I get to more in the coming months. But yeah, those are all the books I read in August. Bunch of romance books. Maybe it's because it was summer. But don't worry, I've gotten real into thriller this month, so we'll see how September goes. And give this book, or if you're still here, definitely give us a thumbs up. The YouTube algorithm just absolutely loves it. Don't forget to subscribe below and hit the notification bell. It just lets you know when you log on to YouTube if I've uploaded a video about books. And see you guys in the next one. See you guys next time. Bye.